welcome to the Knitting Traditions podcast. My name is Inga, and this is my little corner on the internet where I talk about knitting. So mostly what I've been knitting on, knitting plans, finished objects, acquisitions at the end, etc. If you're new here, I hope you enjoy this content, and if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. We are in 2022. Again, a new setup. For those of you who don't know, I live on the west coast of Norway, which is notoriously known for rainy weather, and in the winter months we also don't have a lot of sunlight. So the sun has gone up somewhere in the fogginess outside, but sadly I don't really see any sun. It's quite gloomy, so I'm now sitting right in front of a big window, so at least there's some daylight, and hopefully the quality is okay. I figured it's better to record than to never record, right? And then in the summer it should be better. And I hope you're settled in with something nice to drink. I'm enjoying a cup of tea in this beautiful mug, which looks handmade, but it is not. I am looking for ceramic mugs, but there aren't really anyone around where I live that I know of that sells it. And when I've been trying to look online, shipping has been ridiculous. Probably because it's easy to break in the post. I don't know. So let's get into our knitting. This is a finished object. Usually in the past year I've worn old garments, but I'm sort of running out of garments to show. I probably do still have a few knitted garments that I made before starting the podcast, but I figured we've gotten so far now that I can also start wearing some of my new knits. And I really wanted to wear this new project because I love it so much. This is the Billie pullover by Sari Nordlund. And I have something in my eye. It's an all-over cabled sweater. So it has almost the same cables on the sleeves as the body, but the body also has an additional stitch cable here that is not on the sleeves. There's also cables going down the raglan, and I'll put a photo here of how it looks in its entirety because I am not able to stand up for this. I'm sitting on the couch cross-legged with no room to move. But it is a lovely design. It knit up quite quickly because I found it quite addicting. And usually I'm very much of a product knitter through and through. I love the process of knitting, which is also probably why I knit so much, because knitting for me is a way to relax, and obviously I apparently need a lot of relaxing to get through the days. So as I was knitting on this, I realized that I loved it so much and I couldn't wait to have it as a finished garment. I think it was a combination of how the design looks and the color and the fiber. So I did not use the recommended yarn for this. I was very much inspired by the Billie pullover that you might have seen on the Freya podcast. She also made it in green. And I had this in my stash. This was a stash yarn that I got from my friend Sue. We did some yarn swaps last year. So this is a Canadian yarn from the macausland mill in Canada. I'll put a link below to them. Apparently, if you want their yarn, you have to call them. They are very old-fashioned, but they have some lovely yarns. This is the 2-ply yarn in the green heather colorway. And I believe I used approximately 6 skeins for this, and I knit the size 2, but with a slightly thicker gauge, so I'm between the size 2 and 3. And I think my bust size is around 95 centimeters or so, if that helps you choose your size. But this yarn was probably a lot stiffer than the yarn recommended, which I think was a Knit Picks yarn. No. Now I can't remember. But it was a affordable yarn used for this. And this yarn here cost I think it's $4 per skein. So it's a very affordable 100% wool yarn. Very rustic. I'm really happy Sue sent it to me. What else can I say? Okay, yeah, so because this yarn was slightly stiffer when knitting with it, when I knit the collar as instructed in the pattern, it kind of stood out a bit. It wasn't going in the way you want it to with the rib neck. So what I did is I unraveled the neckband, and then I did probably 10% more decreases, and also I went down 2 needle sizes more than I did initially, like recommended in the pattern. Also, the sleeves, when I bound off, it was a wider cuff, and because of how this yarn was a bit stiffer, it kind of flared a little bit with the bind off, and it didn't look so nice. So I unraveled that too, and I decreased quite a bit. And what I did is I had the original sleeve, and I just cinched the excess fabric in and counted how many stitches would be good for the circumference that I wanted. And I also knit it longer, because when I cinched in the neck, it kind of pulled up the fabric, so the sleeves were also too short after doing that. So that's all fixed. Other than those little details here to accommodate for my yarn choice, I completely followed the pattern. Probably lengthwise on the body, I did my own thing just to fit my torso better. So it's sort of a cropped, but not like a waist cropped. It's on the top of my hips, I would say. But really, really, really happy with this sweater, and yeah, I think it looks great, and I'm probably gonna wear it a lot. I have heard feedback on this yarn from others that it doesn't really pill that much, so I'm really happy to see how it endures me wearing it all the time. It also did soften up a lot with washing, so it's no longer standing up on its own. But it is definitely a rustic yarn, but I don't find it scratchy. I have it next to skin right now. I find the Icelandic yarns a lot more scratchy because they have more hairs sticking out of the spun yarn, while this one is more of a woolen spun, and it doesn't have that much fiber sticking out. So I like it. I think it's really nice. And I wish I had more of this yarn because it's so beautiful. So maybe in the future I'll see if I can get them to ship internationally, or talk to Sue again about another swap. So that was my main finished garment for this episode. But I do have 2 other finished garments. No, not garments. Finished objects to show. So maybe first I can show you this happy color. This is hedgehog fibers, and now I don't remember the colorway, but it's the bright orange. And I knit my my own vanilla sock. It's a modification between the murcy and cabled sock patterns. Basically the rustic cable socks without the cables is what I made. And I'm keeping it on some wooden sock blockers. And yeah, now I can start wearing these. I think these would look really nice with blue jeans. They would be a really happy color. So I'm looking forward to wearing these now, because they can make up for the gloomy weather that we have here. And yeah, I think I did 64 stitches initially, and I ended up with 60 stitches here. I often do have to do that I have less stitches on my foot than on my leg, and I do those decreases in the gusset part, and that really fits my feet well. I have another pair of socks finished. This is, I really need to stop shedding my hair everywhere. These are the same sort of sock pattern. These are in a men's size in the regia tweed sock yarn. I bought 3 balls of this yarn in 3 different colors, and I made now a men's pair of socks, and I could probably make another men's pair of socks with the same ball. So that would be 6 pairs of socks with those 3 balls of yarn. And I think this will go into a gift basket. I'm not sure if I will give it to one of my brothers or my boyfriend, but they will fit both of those categories. This was a lot quicker to knit than this one, because this I think I knit on 2mm or 225mm. I prefer 225 for this kind of sock weight for my socks. And I think this I knit on 3 or 3.5mm needles. And also it felt a little bit less superwash, even though it is, than this yarn. So it was a little bit more pleasant for my hands to knit with. So yeah, these are the finished objects of this episode. And then I have some whips. So maybe we can start with this one. So this right here is the Tulip sweater by Melody Hoffman, and I have finished one sleeve. I think last time I was still working on the last scalloped hems. I was working on finishing the last of those, and yesterday I finished one sleeve, and I am now working on the second sleeve, and I think it's looking really nice. The feel of the fabric is amazing. It's very warm, and it's soft, but like it's not a merino soft. It's a minimally processed wool soft, if that can make any sense. But it is very different to all the other fabrics that I do have, and it's very squishy and airy. It weighs almost nothing. This is just a little over 200 grams right here. I was able to finish the whole body with one of these yarn cakes. It's pencil roving from Hillesvåg. I don't think they sell it online. I found it in their store upstairs. So if you're ever on the west coast of Norway, go to their mill and see if they have some, because this really, it feels so nice. And it's wound up 2 strands together, so I'm holding it double. And I'm not using silk mohair, which Melody has in her pattern, because it was just too thick of a gauge. So maybe this is slightly thicker than the knitted yarn that she used in her pattern, but I'm not sure what it will be. But 2 strands was plenty thick enough to make this sweater. And I'm really excited to have it. Knitting with it is, after some practice, is getting a little bit easier, so I will probably make more in the future because I do have more in my stash. I'm not sure if I'm brave enough to start with textured stitches yet, just because it does really break easily, this kind of unspun fiber. So I'm not sure, maybe I'll be making more of this, or maybe the Forager of Melody Hoffman, or maybe I'll just make something. It's just, as long as you get gauge, you can make anything with this kind of yarn, I think. So we shall see. I think after finishing the sleeve, I will have used up half of my stash in this color, so I could make 2. I also have 2 in a dark, like charcoal, and I think I have 1 in light gray. So we shall see. I also do have new Tiden in my stash, which I bought last year, but it's sort of been this kind of yarn that feels like it should be used for something really special, so I didn't want to use it for my first garment, so I used this yarn, which I have more of to practice, but it turned out really great, so I'm really happy with it. Yes. I've knit almost all of this with my Haya sharps. I think the really sharp tips works really well with this yarn because I can get it into the stitch without pulling too much on the stitch. But for the lower part of the sleeve, I did have to change to my Addie's circular needles, which are 30 centimeters in total. So they're shorter circumference. It's what I use for my socks as well. So not as easy to knit with as the sharps, but it worked. So that was that. Maybe I can put it here because I'm going to be knitting on it afterwards. And then since last time, I started a pattern from Purl Soho. I think this is the Fisherman's rib hat. And I have almost finished it. I just need to weave in the ends and block it. So this uses by Amalia, which is an indie dyer based in Israel, and she uses organic non-superwash merino. It's 225 meters per 100 grams, so it's a DK weight, and she dyed this with eucalyptus. So this is a natural eucalyptus colorway. And I still have some left after finishing this hat. It's extremely soft and squishy. So if you are looking for an organic non-superwash yarn, which is, supposed to be cruelty-free and all the good things that you can imagine when buying yarn, then this is a really good option if you are sensitive because it feels really nice and soft. And I think I knit the small adult size because I do like a tight fitting beanie. So this is a good size for my little head. And yeah, so I do need to weave in this and fasten it and wash it and everything. But I'm really happy with how it turned out, and it was a really, really quick knit. I did knit 2 of the Purl Soho watch cap hats, and they do have the same way of doing decreases at the top of the head. Just that's a 2x2 rib, I believe, and this is a 1x1 rib. They are both free patterns. They are both really nice patterns. I prefer the watch cap hat, the look of the one with the 2x2 rib. I think it looks more fancy, but this is a really nice hat pattern too. A lot of people have been making this. It's very simple. It looks really nice. It fits really well. So I'll probably be making more of this in the future as well. But I really like the look of the watch cap hat. So yeah, so this is the kind of decreases. You decrease in the same exact 5 spots around and it creates the look like this. So it's really nice. You don't have to fold it up. You could of course wear it like a slouchy hat, but I do prefer the beanie look for myself. So that has been resting in my prairie bags work with all these cute little sheeps on it. And now I'll just finish it up and I can start wearing it. It's not snowing right now, it's raining, but it's still nice to have a hat on. It does protect oneself from the rain as well. And then I have a secret whip that I'm not allowed to show just yet. It's inside this beautiful bag from Payuta Makes, or Payauta Makes. Still don't know how to pronounce that. Milda made this. It's beautiful. And I can show you the yarn I'm using. So this is a yarn that I've had in my stash. And this Testknit called for this yarn, and I said that I have this, so I can start straight away. It's socks, I can say that. And this is Tuka wool. Tuka wool fingering weight, so it's 200 meters per 50 grams, because these come in 50 gram skeins that I've now wound up. So it's 100% Finnish wool, non-superwash. I also have the Tuka wool sock base in my stash, which is 160 meters, so it's slightly thicker, and that has nylon in it. But this sock yarn called for the one without nylon, because this person is running a natural sock along this year, so that's a little hint for you right there. And this has been amazing to knit with. The fabric that I'm using this for the main color, and the fabric that this is creating, it makes me want to knit a sweater in this yarn on 2mm needles, but I don't know if I have the stamina to cast on a adult size sweater on 2mm needles, because that would be a lot of stitches, but the fabric would be amazing. So maybe one day. So I'm really excited to see how these wear. Hopefully they wear without getting holes in them too fast, because the socks are beautiful. I kind of just want to hang them on my wall and not wear them because they're so pretty. But I will show you probably in the next episode, because then maybe it is released. If not, I'll show it when it is released. And then I have another whip on the go, which I'm carrying in my bag from The Beautiful Knitters, a store in London. And inside it, I'm carrying my travel knitting. So this is a pair of socks that I'm carrying on my Twizzter, which I was gifted to try. And I am using a new yarn because I am running the Rustic knit along for this year. So so far it's only on Instagram. Use the hashtag Rustic knit along, and I think we should have a new hashtag for finished objects that I can draw prizes from. So use the Rustic knit along FO hashtag for finished objects, and I will draw prizes at least at the end of the year, but maybe sometime through the year if I get some prizes. But I am using this yarn, which is new to me. This is the Vandre sock base from Rauma, which is 100% wool yarn intended for socks. So it has no nylon, it's non-superwash, and I think I would call this a DK weight yarn because it is quite thick. If I compare it to the Finnish wool, as you can see here, it's quite a lot thicker. And I have read some feedbacks. Some people said that they got holes in them really quick, but when I looked at the photos of those people's socks, they had a very loose gauge. And socks with a loose gauge will get holes in them a lot quicker than if you have a tight and dense gauge. So even though this yarn recommends, I don't know, 3.3, I think it recommended 3.5mm or even 4. Don't quote me on that, but it recommended a bigger needle size than I would use. So I think I'm using, what do you think is this? 2.5, 275, 275 maybe? So I'm using a smaller needle size, and it is creating quite the dense fabric. Maybe a little bit too dense because it's not as pleasurable to knit with when it is this tight, but I think it will create a durable and really warm sock. So that's just a small whip on my needles, which isn't getting a lot of attention because I haven't been on a road trip where I've been knitting on this, only when going skiing the past weekend, and that wasn't a lot of minutes in the car, but I did get some work done. So that's one of my whips. And my final whip, ta-da-da! So if you followed me on Instagram, or if you do, I'm mostly active on my Instagram stories, and I was looking for sweaters with textured yokes. I knit 3 ranunculuses by Midori Hirose, Knit Cafe Midori, last year. And I really love the look of that garment. Simple, plain sweater, but a lot of stuff happening just at the yoke. And that really appeals to me as both a product and a process. Because when I'm knitting on it, there's a lot of fun stuff happening, but then there's also a lot of stockinette, so I can get some mindless knitting going as well. So I wanted to find other patterns like that. So I asked people to send me inspirational photos of patterns or hashtags so I could easily check them out. And I created a little story of different sweaters that fit the bill that appealed to me. And I've saved those on my Instagram under my highlights. I think I call it structured sweaters or structured yokes or something. And I've cast on one of them. So this is the Dandelion pullover. I think it's the name. I think it's the Dandelion pullover or the Dandelion sweater by Paula. I will put everything in the description box below. This really appealed to me when I saw it. I thought it was a beautiful textured yoke, and then the rest is just going to be simple plain stockinette. In the pattern, she also has a stitch repeat at the cuffs, but I am just going to be knitting it straight because I want to. I think it looks really nice with just the yoke. And what else can I say? The yarn, first of all, I'm keeping it in my other bag from Payuta Megs. I bought one and she gifted me one. And I am using some yarn that I've had in my stash for several years now. It's held together. I'm holding 2 strands together to get the gauge. I'm using the isager silk mohair in the color 69. And I have plenty of this. I'm probably going to have more left over because I think I have 6 balls of yarn and I've only broken into my second now. And the other I'm using, I have 3 skeins of, and I've just started my second skein of this. And let's see if I can get the label out. Because this was not the yarn that I thought it was when I cast on. And then I looked at the label. So this is Murky Depths dye work. And I think the yarn is called Harbour. And this is 100% superwash merino wool singles fingering. So 400 yards per 100 meters. And the color is called Picante. And now I'm not quite sure where I bought it, but I think I might have bought it in, no, I'm not sure. I think I bought it in Holland when I was in Amsterdam, but I'm really not sure now. Because I thought it was another yarn that I had cast on with, but when I think about it, that yarn is a lace weight, so it's not this. But this looks really nice. I swatched, so it is what I intended to use. I am using, I think, 3.5 millimeter needles. I thought I had swatched with a 4, but I was mistaken. But I have gauge that fits this pattern, and I finished the yoke already. And I don't know what happened, but when I was supposed to split for the body and sleeves, I was missing 100 stitches. How do you miss 100 stitches? How is that even possible? Because the yoke is charted with increases, and I've followed the chart step by step. And then after that, there's a few rows with increases as well before splitting, and I followed that, I think. So I don't know where in all of this that I have missed something that made me lose 100 stitches. But there was no way I was ripping back this. Like, no way. No. Because this is mohair. First of all, and ripping back mohair is a pain. Second of all, this is a beautiful structured yoke, but I did not enjoy knitting a lot of the textures. And that is no fault of the pattern. That's just because I find certain textured stitches harder on my hands to knit, like bobbles. I love the look of bobbles, but I don't like knitting bobbles. But I still do it sometimes because I want the finished result like this. And also this portion right here, which is also here, involved purling a lot of stitches together, which is also very fiddly, especially when you're also holding two strands where one of them is mohair. So if I had just knit this in a slick yarn, it would probably have been a lot less fiddly, but I do like how it looks. And I'm happy to finally have found a pattern for this yarn, which I have been stashing for a long time. So what I did, since I was not gonna rip back, is I just knit the part after the textured yokes further, and every like 2 to 3 rows I did increases until I reached I was knitting the medium, but that would have caused me to have to increase 100 stitches in a short amount of time, and I was afraid that would look a bit weird. So I increased to the small size, which still will fit. It'll just have a little bit less positive ease because it's supposed to be a light boxy fit. But I think this will look okay. I've knit a little bit further on the body, and I've put it on these stitch stoppers, and I've started the sleeves, which I also have some stoppers on, and here I'm using my short addies, which are 30 centimeters circumference. And the reason I've done that is because I am going on a plane tomorrow, and I wanted to bring this for my plane knitting, and if they want to steal my needles, it will only be these that have a sharp tip, because everything else is just resting. So we will see how that goes. Yeah, so those were all of my whips. Now I need to drink some tea, and then we can go into acquisitions and knitting plans, because I have gotten some acquisitions with intent, and then I've also gotten some acquisitions to pair with stash yarn that I've had from before, so that I can actually make something with it, because I feel like they've been missing a strand of mohair or something to make it perfect. And now probably my tea is drinkable, so yeah, it's all perfect now. So this will be cold before we finish. Okay. So first, I was sent some amazing yarn by a viewer who contacted me. She had some yarn from the Harrisville mill that she was not going to use because it was too rustic for her taste, and she thought of me because it was just lying around, and asked if I would be interested in receiving the yarn and knitting something up with it at one point. And I was very honored that she would even think of me, and she also sent me a photo of the yarn, and I fell head over heels for it, and I said, yes, please. So if you see this, then you know that I love this color. There are 2 different colors here, which you might see. One with more greeny, tealy tint to it, and one which is more of a cinnamon reddish yellow tint to the fiber. So she sent me 5 skeins of this. This is total of almost 1,000 grams, almost a kilo for all the 5 balls total, and that's approximately 2,200 yards. and 4 of the warmer tone, which is 230 grams each. So it's almost a kilo there as well. And it's 400 to 500 yards per ball. So it says 1,600 to 2,000 yards in total. So I have more of this than this. So I am not completely sure what to make yet. This is more prickly than this yarn from the macausland wool, which is a lot rounder in feel than this. This has more of a prickle factor. It would be extremely warm and nice. It would look really nice in a cabled sweater, I think. And I do have enough yarn to make 2 cabled sweaters here. But she also wrote something about how it would look nice as a blanket. And then I started thinking about what if I were to make a cabled blanket. But I would need to use both the quantities in order to have a nice sized blanket knit. So then if you have any cabled blanket patterns in mind, you could tip me about it, because I am looking for inspiration. Maybe I would have to do sort of sections, so one section with the cabled structure in this color, and then one in this, and then do every second one, so that it would look intentional to have 2 colors instead of switching halfway, because I think that would A, look amazing, a cabled rustic blanket, B, super functional because it would be really, really warm, and C, it would fit really nicely in this room with my green couch and the colors that I like. I do have this blanket that I knit in Holst Super Soft that I finished just about the time when I started recording podcasts. It took me, I think, 2 years to make this. But this was on 3mm needles or something. It was a very, very time-consuming project, but it is a really, really lovely blanket. It's warm, even though it's thin, and it matches the couch. But I think this would look so great because it would stand out and people would see it when they come in. And I always feel so proud if people ask me, did you knit that? Because, I don't know, it's a very nice compliment for a knitter to have people ask that question, as if it's so nice that it has to be store-bought, but no, it's knitted, so it's even better. So yeah, that is something that I'm really looking forward to. I just need to find the perfect pattern to really show off this beautiful, beautiful yarn. So nice. All right. Then I was at the cabin and with my friend and my parents. So I wanted to show off the knitting store there to my friend and get my mother to get some more yarn because I need to feed the hobby of hers. And when I was looking for sweaters with structured or textured yokes, the Ilha sweater showed up. And I will put the name of the designer below. But it's a beautiful, beautiful sweater. And I wanted to get some yarn for it. So I was looking at the store and I saw this yarn. This is the Billie, which is the Norwegian lamb's wool yarn by Hillesvåg. And according to the pattern, 3 skeins would be enough, so that was quite affordable. Because the Hillesvåg yarns are quite affordable for what you get, the meterage, and I really like it. I'm really lucky to live in a country where non-superwash yarns are very accessible and very affordable. indie dyed yarns as such are extremely more expensive here than this kind of yarn. This is the non-superwash yarns from woolen mills are a huge part of Norwegian culture, and they're everywhere and really lucky. So this is 375 meters per 100 grams, so it's approximately the same as the yarn used in the Ilha sweater, which I think was made in the yarn from Retrosaria Pomar, which I don't have that yarn in a sweater's quantity. I don't think I have that yarn at all. I have to check. But I got this, which is an undyed base. It's called unbleached white. So the wool has not been bleached. It's the natural color of the Norwegian white sheep, I'm assuming. They're lamb's wool. And I did feel this exact fiber in their thicker base, which I think is called Sol. And it was a lot softer, probably because it doesn't have as much of a tight twist as this one. But I think it will soften up quite a bit with washing. Ideally, I would have liked to have a color even more similar to the original Ilha sweater, which is more of a creamy oat color, while this is more of a natural warm white. But I don't have a lot of color sweaters in this color, and I think it will look really nice. So that is what I'm planning to use this yarn for, and have a beautiful sweater to look really well with dresses and jeans. They had another yarn in the store that my mother was looking at, and she has already knitted up a pair of mittens in this yarn. But it was the Knitting for Olive compatible cashmere yarn that they had in the store. And this is quite an expensive yarn. If you look at all the Rustic wool yarns, this is quite expensive. But it does feel really nice and soft. It's 25 grams and 187 meters, and that's 100% cashmere. This is the color Nordic Beach. And my mother already made a pair of mittens with this held with a silk mohair from Knitting for Olive. I got these three, and the intent is to knit a headband. So that is a finished object that I didn't have today. I made a triple folded headband for my father in the Arvetta. And my forehead is really sensitive, so usually I can't wear any kind of wool on my forehead. The Arvetta is almost okay, but it still is a little bit scratchy. So I am looking forward to trying to make a headband with cashmere and see how that works. So I'm going to hold it triple and then knit a similar construction as what I did for my father. So I'll knit a long tube, fold it over, knit it together, and then knit an extra half a length to fold on the inside and sew it down. And hopefully it'll be enough. We shall see. If it's not enough, I'll make a double folded headband or something. So yeah, that is one acquisition. And then I got some Holst yarn. This is the super soft 100% wool in the black colorway. So it's the same yarn as I knit this in, and it's the same yarn that I held double for my brown cabled sweater that I knit last year. And I saw Kat from Heather and Hops knit several things in this black colorway, and I don't think I have a black colored sweater that I have knit at all. Knitting with dark yarns is more straining on the eyes, but I do think I would get a lot of wear out of this. I find black a very flattering color. It fits with most things. But I'm not sure if I would knit it as a single strand or hold it double, or maybe try to combine it with a silk mohair. So that is something that I got. I got the isager silk mohair in the color 30, which is a black color. You see the silk kind of has a silvery shine to it, but I think it'll look really nice together. And the super soft softens a lot with washing because it does have a lot of spinning oil in it, and this just keeps getting softer and softer. But with this, I think it would feel amazing. So not sure what I will make yet. I now have a lot of textured patterns in mind, but I don't think I want to use silk mohair in all of them because it does hide the stitch definition a little bit. But probably I will make a swatch and then find a pattern based on my gauge when I have a fabric that I like. And speaking of, I had bought this yarn previously at the yarn store at my cabin. This is the Camarus Monostrole, which is the colorway light beige, and it has golden colored stellina in it. And I have this cone, and I think I am going to pair these together as well. I could use it on its own, either one of these, but I do think they would look nice together. And this is the super soft in the color almond, which I think is really, really beautiful. And of course, there's a lot of yarn on these cones, so even if I make a sweater paired with this, I would still have enough left probably to make another sweater. Because when you do pair it with another strand, you go up a needle size and you use less meterage of the yarn. So yeah, that's another. I am leaning more towards the basics. I think I've realized that in my closets I do have a lot of greens and rusts and all the colors that I gravitate towards, and then I don't have that much of the neutral like whites and grays and blacks. Now I do have more grays because I have been knitting more gray stuff. But I do have, I think, one white sweater, and I do pick that often just because it fits really well with dresses and other things because it doesn't have much going on. So, yeah. I like to pick yarns that I like, and then I pick patterns that I like, and it seems to work out. And another pairing that I have. So I have this beautiful purpley brown color from Hasegawa. This is the Hasegawa silk mohair that I got in Japan in... How long have we had COVID? The fall of 19, I think. And I have 4 balls of this, but it does have quite a lot of meterage, 300 meters per 25 grams. And I have knitted other sweaters paired with this in other colors, and it's been enough for a sweater's quantity. So I got this coffee color from Super Soft, which is a really nice brown. It's a kind of brown that I really like. So this could also become a sweater's quantity now. So these are my super soft sweater quantities paired with 3 different kinds of mohair. Or actually the monostrole, the beige colored in the middle, that is baby alpaca, and merino wool, polyamide, and polyester. But the other 2 are silk mohairs. And I think that was all the acquisitions that I have. But that should keep me busy for quite a while. I don't really feel pressure to knit things up. I will knit things up when I feel like knitting them. It's all about doing things that makes me happy. And since knitting makes me happy, I do tend to knit a lot. And yeah, I probably do knit fast. So at one point, I should start gifting my knits. And that's what I did try to do more in the last year, to knit a bit more gifts, because I used to mostly just knit for myself, because I do find it more fun to kind of envision something that I want to wear and then making it and wearing it. It's not as fun to knit something that I will just straight away give away. But I don't know. I do have a lot of sweaters that I don't use that probably someone else would get a lot of joy out of getting, but I don't know. I feel sort of like giving something away that I have used is not as nice of a gift, and probably that's just me being silly. So I think I'll start asking people I know how they would feel about getting something that's been worn by me, and then I would feel better about knitting all the things that I want. Oh yeah. So life stuff. Not that much life stuff going on. I've been working and I've been skiing. I went downhill skiing for the first time in several years, and I've been putting it off because I've been really scared. Because it's been so long, I was scared I'd forgotten. I'm always afraid of falling. I'm a bit of a wimp. So I'd been dreading and putting it off, and every time somebody would go, I would say, no, not me, I'm good. I'm just gonna go across country where it's flat. But I did actually go when my friend was at the cabin with me and my parents. And to my great surprise, my body remembered how to turn, and I did a lot better than I thought I would. I didn't put the brakes on the whole time, which I do when I go cross-country skiing, because I'm so afraid of falling. So it was a lot of fun, so I'm glad I went. And this week work, and I'm going to Oslo tomorrow for some work stuff, and that will be the first time flying in over 2 years, so I'm sort of excited and nervous at the same time. It's just for one night, so I don't think I need to bring any luggage, but I do need to bring my knitting. So I need to plan how to get enough knitting with me without carrying too much stuff. And that's my life, work and knitting. And sometimes I eat food with my boyfriend. Exciting times. I do hope that the world is going towards opening up soon. That would be nice. I would love to travel and go to knitting festivals. Amy from A Meaningful Stitch, Amy Palko. I always just think of her as Amy Palko, but I think her podcast is called A Meaningful Stitch. She's going to the knitting festival in Perth in Scotland, and I really want to go. But we shall see. If they still have tickets and I still have the possibility to take some time off from work at that time, then I think I'll try and go. That would be a lot of fun. I've never been to a knitting festival in another country. I went to one in Oslo, but it wasn't like a big knitting festival, and I wasn't as much of a knitter at that time. So it would be really, really nice to go, and maybe I could meet some other like-minded people, because I don't really have any crazy obsessive knitters in my life, which is why I love interacting with you guys so much. You have no idea how much joy this podcast has brought into my life. If I have a bad day, I'll just go in and read comments and interact, and I feel so much better straight away. So thank you so much for being here with me. And with that, I will say goodbye. I hope this was an okay lighting, and I will see you next time. Bye.